In the heart of a quiet Utah community, a story of overcoming and mourning transformed into one of the most disturbing criminal cases in recent years. In March of 2023, Kouri Richins appeared on a local television program to promote her children's book, Are You With Me? A touching work written to help her three young sons cope with the sudden loss of their father, Eric Richins, who had died exactly 1 year earlier. With delicate illustrations, the book showed a father as an angel in the clouds, always present during important moments in his child's life, at soccer games, at Christmas, in moments of solitude. I searched bookstores for something that could comfort my children at night, when the longing is most intense, explained Kouri during the interview. But I couldn't find anything that really helped them find peace. The story of a mother transforming her pain into something that could help other families move viewers. Few, however, questioned the strange lack of emotion with which Kouri spoke of her husband's death, or why a widow would be able, in just 1 year, to process such trauma to the point of writing a book about it. Just 3 days after her television appearance, police from Summit County took Kouri into custody in handcuffs. What was the accusation? What could be behind that facade of a dedicated mother and healing widow? Stay until the end of the video and understand everything about this shocking case that shook not just a family, but an entire community. And if you're not yet subscribed, make sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any video about real crimes that challenge our understanding of human nature. To understand what led to this disturbing situation, we need to go back a few years and examine the life of the couple who, for those who only knew them superficially, seemed to be the personification of the American dream. Like so many modern love stories, Kouri and Eric's began in an everyday setting. It was 2009 when their eyes met in a Home Depot branch in Utah. Kouri worked as a cashier, while Eric, working in the construction industry, frequently visited the store to buy materials for his masonry company. According to accounts from co-workers, Eric developed an immediate interest in the beautiful cashier, but his shyness prevented him from approaching her directly. He would always come through my line. You would never forget that laugh, and I really loved that laugh, reported a former colleague of Kouri's, who ended up encouraging Eric to approach her. I said, go over there and go through her checkout. So they did that, and ended up having a date. From then on, they were like glued to each other. The chemistry between the couple was evident to anyone who saw them together. After a period of dating, they formalized their union on June 15, 2013, in a ceremony that united their families. From their love, 3 boys were born: Carter, Ashton, and Weston. Eric, who was already described by friends and family as a man of solid values, found his greatest fulfillment in fatherhood. He lived for those boys, says Greg Scoris, spokesperson for the Richins family. He was an incredibly present and dedicated father. Eric, who grew up learning the value of hard work on a family ranch, made sure to pass these teachings on to his children. When he wasn't helping his father transport hay, feeding animals, or fixing fences, he dedicated himself to sports with the boys, coaching all their sports teams. Professionally, the couple also seemed to prosper. Eric co-founded CN Masonry, a masonry and stone construction company, with his friend Cody. The business gained local recognition and guaranteed a comfortable life for the family. Kouri, in turn, obtained a license as a real estate broker and soon developed a lucrative business of buying, renovating, and selling houses. Kouri had something that many people don't have, observes Greg Hall, who worked as a marketing director for her. Often you find smart individuals, but without common sense, or with common sense, but without intelligence. She had both. She was a brilliant young woman with a good nose for business. Typically, Kouri managed 3 properties simultaneously, buying, renovating, and selling houses with considerable profit. The process resembled popular TV programs about home renovation, and Kouri showed a natural talent for the field. Superficially, the Richins family represented the American dream in its fullness. They had a comfortable home, financial stability, healthy children, and travels around the world. As Ronnie, Kouri's brother, reported, they lived very well and bought and spent what they wanted. At family events, the couple seemed united and happy. Eric's sisters, Katie and Amy, frequently visited their brother and adored their nephews. During celebrations, when both families gathered, the environment was described as friendly, fraternal, and fun. Nobody's perfect, but they were close to it, affirmed Lisa Darden, Kouri's mother, about her daughter's relationship with her son-in-law. Like any couple, they faced challenges. Lisa mentions that Eric preferred for Kouri to be a full-time mother, while she valued her professional independence. There was also the time Eric spent hunting, sometimes 4 or 5 months a year, which caused occasional friction. Despite these small disagreements, to the outside world, the Richins represented an ideal American family, hardworking, united, and prosperous. As Ronnie declared in later testimony, they were, probably, in the best moment I've seen them in a long time. Everyone having fun, laughing, playing, it really seemed great to me. Few could imagine that under this facade of perfection hid secrets, suspicions, and a meticulous plan that would culminate in tragedy. While friends and acquaintances saw only smiles and public displays of affection, the Richins' marriage faced deep turbulence that remained invisible to most. What few knew was that Eric had taken drastic measures behind the scenes to protect himself, not just financially, but also physically. In October 2020, approximately 18 months before his death, Eric rewrote his will. The decision was not taken lightly. He removed Kouri as the beneficiary of his assets, transferring his entire estate, valued at an impressive $3,600,000, to a secret trust administered by his sister Katie. Without his wife's knowledge, Eric also appointed Katie as his attorney, giving her the power to make all decisions related to his assets. He lived for the boys. I believe he would have stayed in a less than desirable relationship if it meant doing the best for them, commented a spokesperson for the Richins family, explaining why Eric did not proceed with divorce, despite having consulted lawyers about the matter. Eric's fears went far beyond financial concerns. In private conversations that would only be revealed after his death, he had expressed fears for his own life. "If I die, you need to look at Kouri, because I think she's trying to kill me," he confided to close friends and family. These were not unfounded paranoia. Subsequent investigations would reveal at least 2 disturbing incidents that corroborated his suspicions. The first episode occurred during a trip to Greece in 2019. Eric, Kouri, and 6 friends were on vacation when Eric became violently ill after consuming a drink prepared by his wife. According to Eric's family, he was so debilitated that he called his sister, expressing his suspicion that Kouri was trying to take his life. Kouri's family's version of this incident would be substantially different. According to Ronnie, Kouri's brother, it was a misunderstanding. Eric was taking medication with which he couldn't drink alcohol. He asked the waitress to bring a non-alcoholic drink, but she didn't. This made him very sick. Kouri called his doctor, found out what to do, and later that night he was fine. The second incident, much more recent and alarming, occurred just 3 weeks before Eric's death, on Valentine's Day 2022. According to the Richins family, Kouri prepared a sandwich for Eric that, after a single bite, provoked severe hives and difficulty breathing. The reaction was so intense that Eric needed to use his son's EpiPens, epinephrine auto-injectors, and Benadryl to be able to breathe. Again, Kouri's family offered an alternative explanation. They ordered a sandwich and the sandwich was spoiled, reported Ronnie. He went to take a nap and then went to coach one of his children's teams. Despite these concerning incidents, Eric remained in the marriage. Close friends reported that, although he was scared, Eric was very much in love with her and genuinely believed in the value of a united family. As a devoted father, he prioritized the emotional well-being of his children above his own apprehensions. He would do anything to maintain the relationship, if it meant he could do right by the boys, explained a family friend. "Let's go to couples therapy. Let's try to keep the family together." There were also indications that, despite the underlying tensions, the couple might be in a phase of reconciliation. In the weeks leading up to Eric's death, witnesses noticed that the relationship seemed more harmonious. "They were, probably, in the best place I've seen them in a good while," commented Ronnie in later testimony. Eric's paradox, fearing for his life while simultaneously trying to save his marriage, illustrates the devastating dilemma faced by many victims of abusive relationships: the conflicting desire to protect themselves and, at the same time, preserve what they consider most important. In this case, family stability for his 3 young children. The night of March 3, 2022 began, according to Kouri, as an occasion for celebration. In her account to authorities, she and Eric were celebrating a significant professional achievement. They had closed on the purchase of an impressive $4 million property in Midway, Utah. This 20,000 square foot mansion, with an additional 4,000 square foot guest house, represented Kouri's most ambitious project to date. I think this was her dream when she entered the house flipping business, to be able to work with properties like this, commented Sky Lazaro, Kouri's attorney. The property, originally built in 2017 but never finished, had the potential to become an extremely lucrative venture. According to an accountant consulted by the couple, if they could complete the renovation within budget, they could profit up to $12 million from the sale. To celebrate this acquisition, Kouri prepared a Moscow Mule for Eric, a cocktail made with vodka and ginger beer. According to her, the couple went to bed around 9 p.m., but Kouri did not remain in the marital bedroom. As was common in her routine, she went to sleep with her 9-year-old son Ashton, who suffered from frequent night terrors. At approximately 3 a.m., Kouri claimed to have returned to the couple's bedroom. When trying to gently push Eric to his side of the bed, she noticed he was ice cold and unresponsive. She immediately called emergency services, 911, and, following the operator's instructions, attempted to perform cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I received a phone call, and it was Kouri. She said, "Come here, something happened to Eric. He went to sleep and never woke up," reported Lisa Darden, Kouri's mother, who went to the location to console her daughter. When first responders arrived, they found Eric already lifeless. Initially, they suspected an aneurysm, considering that the man was only 39 years old and there were no obvious signs of violence. The body was removed from the residence while the couple's 3 children, awakened by the commotion, looked on stunned at the movement of paramedics and police. It was what occurred in the 48 hours following that began to raise suspicions. On the day immediately after Eric's death, contradicting the account that they had already finalized the purchase of the mansion the night before, Kouri effectively signed the acquisition papers for the property. More shocking still, she held a large celebration party at this newly acquired property. Witnesses reported that Kouri was seen drinking and celebrating as if nothing had happened, just 2 days after her husband's death. Most disturbing, she did not inform the guests about Eric's passing. The only attendees who knew about the tragedy were the deceased's family members. When Katie, Eric's sister, questioned Kouri's inappropriate behavior, she asked Katie to leave the family home so that she could mourn in peace. The situation escalated into a heated argument, during which Katie informed Kouri that she could no longer reside in the family home. It was during this confrontation that Kouri discovered something that left her visibly disturbed. Before dying, Eric had named Katie as the administrator of a trust containing all his assets, effectively removing Kouri from his will. 2 days after Eric's death, witnesses reported that Kouri physically assaulted Amy, another of Eric's sisters, punching her in the neck and face when she tried to prevent Kouri from opening a safe that supposedly contained between $125,000 and $165,000 in cash. The situation became so volatile that police were called to the scene. Less than 3 weeks after Eric's death, on March 28th, Kouri filed a lawsuit against Katie for control of her husband's $3,600,000 estate. She claimed that, according to the prenuptial agreement signed on their wedding day, she was entitled to all of Eric's assets in case of death, and that he had tried to defraud her by secretly transferring his assets to his sister. When questioned about Kouri's atypical behavior during the mourning period, her family defended that each person deals with grief differently. Her sister Ronnie stated, "She never had time to mourn. She's doing her best to move forward." However, for the investigators who would later review the case, these actions did not represent different expressions of grief, but rather calculated behaviors of someone who never intended to mourn the loss of her husband, because she herself had planned his death. What initially seemed to be a natural tragedy, the sudden death of a healthy 39-year-old man, began to show much darker contours when the results of Eric Richins' autopsy were finalized. The toxicological examination left no room for doubt. Eric had died from a fentanyl overdose, with a concentration 5 times higher than the dose considered lethal. This crucial data completely changed the direction of the investigation. The fentanyl found in Eric's body was not for medical use. but rather an illicit version typically sold by drug dealers. For investigators, the question became obvious. How would a dedicated family man, with no known history of illicit drug use, have access to and motive to consume such a high dose of such a dangerous substance? Kouri's family presented an alternative explanation. Eric was a recreational user of substances, including THC gummies, and had acquired drugs from unreliable sources during his travels. In almost every trip I took with him, he bought from people on the street, affirmed Ronnie, Kouri's brother. However, this version was vehemently contested by Eric's family, who insisted he certainly was not a user of opioids or illegal drugs. With confirmation that the death was caused by poisoning, authorities obtained search and seizure warrants. All electronic devices, including cell phones and computers, were confiscated from the couple's residence. The digital forensic analysis revealed devastating evidence. 1. Phone records disprove alibi. Kouri had told investigators that she left her phone charging in the couple's bedroom while she slept in her son Ashton's room. However, her cell phone data revealed activity during this period. The device was locked, unlocked, and registered movement, in addition to sending text messages, which were later deleted. Specifically, these messages were to her drug supplier, identified in court documents as CL. 2. Incriminating search history. The analysis of Kouri's browsing history revealed a series of extremely incriminating searches, including: what is the lethal dose of fentanyl? Is it possible to recover deleted text messages from an iPhone? And can the FBI find deleted messages? These searches suggested not only premeditation, but also attempts to conceal evidence. 3. Drug supplier's testimony. The investigation led to the identification of Carmen Lauber, CL, a woman with an extensive criminal history related to drugs, who worked for Kouri performing cleaning services both in her properties for sale and in the family residence. Lauber, who was on parole for multiple trafficking charges, provided a devastating testimony. In an interview with police on May 2, 2023, CL confirmed that Kouri had contacted her between December 2021 and February 2022, initially claiming to need painkillers for an investor with a back injury. Days after this first contact, CL and Kouri met at one of the houses Kouri was renovating to make the exchange. Just 2 weeks later, Kouri contacted CL again, this time requesting something more potent. According to CL's testimony, Kouri specifically asked for fentanyl, referring to it as that Michael Jackson thing. On February 11, 2022, just 3 days before the Valentine's Day incident, when Eric had a strong allergic reaction after eating a sandwich prepared by Kouri, she bought $900 in fentanyl. Later, on February 26, just 5 days before Eric's death, CL made another delivery to Kouri, leaving the fentanyl hidden in the fireplace of one of the properties that Kouri was renovating. 4. Inconsistencies at the crime scene. Investigators noted that, although Kouri claimed to have attempted CPR on Eric, this was highly unlikely. Eric's body had so much blood accumulation in his mouth that any resuscitation attempt would have left evident traces, which were not observed. 5. Absence of drug traces. In searches conducted at the couple's residence, no container, vial, or any other item that could contain fentanyl was found. This contradicts the theory that Eric would have consumed the drug voluntarily, as in that case, it would be expected to find some trace of the product. During a bail determination hearing in June 2023, prosecutor Joseph Hill called to the stand cell phone specialist Chris Kodos, who detailed the findings on Kouri's devices. Defense attorney Sky Lazaro tried to argue that the incriminating searches were conducted after Eric's death to answer questions related to the accusations she was facing. Regarding CL's testimony, Lazaro questioned her credibility, pointing to her criminal history and suggesting that the $1,300 payment mentioned could be for cleaning services, not for purchasing drugs. I believe that whenever you have an informant-type situation, it may question the veracity of their statements or why they're saying this, she argued. However, the set of circumstantial evidence, added to the search history, phone records, and testimonies, formed a coherent and devastating picture. For investigators, there were no more doubts. Eric Richins did not die of natural causes or an accidental overdose. He was the victim of a meticulously planned murder by his own wife. Behind the facade of business success and financial stability of the Richins family, a very different reality was hidden. The financial investigation of the case revealed that Kouri did not kill Eric out of jealousy, passion, or in a moment of anger. She did it for one of the oldest and most predictable motives in the history of crimes: money. This is cold-blooded greed, declared Greg Skoris, spokesperson for Eric's family. As investigators delved into the couple's finances, they discovered an alarming scenario that provided a powerful motive for the crime. Kouri's business of buying and renovating properties, which she presented as extremely successful, was actually drowning in debt, almost $2 million of it. She was completely overwhelmed, needed money urgently. It was a significant amount, explained Skoris. Kouri's financial need was not just urgent, it was desperate. Court documents revealed a disturbing pattern of unethical and potentially criminal financial behavior. For years, Kouri had diverted funds from Eric's personal and business accounts without his knowledge. In September 2020, she obtained a $250,000 line of credit on the couple's house, spent that money, and also withdrew an additional $100,000 from Eric's personal bank account. Additionally, Kouri was being sued for fraud by a couple to whom she sold a house, after the buyers discovered toxic mold in the property. To complete the picture of financial problems, she also owed more than $130,000 in unpaid taxes on certain incomes. The couple's prenuptial agreement, drafted by Eric's mother and signed by both on their wedding day, contained a crucial clause that would become central to this case. The document stipulated that Kouri renounced any claim to Eric's business assets, except in one specific circumstance: if the husband dies before the wife while the two are legally married. This clause, originally conceived to protect Eric, who had been married before, now created a perverse financial incentive. As Eric had considered divorce and secretly transferred his assets to a fund administered by his sister, Kouri faced a grim financial reality if the marriage ended. He was worth much more to her dead than divorced, Skoris succinctly observed. She felt there was easy and quick money to be made without having the husband around. Eric's life insurance policies represented another significant component of the financial motive. At the time of his death, Eric had at least 6 life insurance policies totaling almost $3 million. In January 2022, just 2 months before Eric's death, court documents alleged that Kouri forged her husband's signature to obtain an additional policy worth $100,000. Even more revealing, investigators discovered that, as early as 2015, just 2 years after the marriage, Kouri had attempted to apply for 4 different life insurance policies in Eric's name, totaling almost $2 million. This suggested that the plan to get rich from her husband's death might have been conceived much earlier than initially imagined. In another audacious attempt, Kouri accessed a $2 million life insurance policy that Eric maintained with his business partner, Kouri, and altered it so that she would be the sole beneficiary, without Eric's knowledge or consent. Fortunately, the insurance company alerted Kouri about the change, who in turn informed Eric, allowing him to reverse the alteration in time. When confronted with these allegations, Kouri's attorney, Sky Lazaro, vehemently contested the characterization that her client was indebted and desperate for money. She was in the house flipping business. That's what they did, argued Lazaro. It's not as if she had all these conventional loans that she owed money to people. It certainly seems like a large number, but we're talking about business transactions with people she did business with. Kouri's family also defended her financial practices, claiming that Eric and Kouri sat down every month and did the accounts together. At all times, Eric knew what was coming in and what was going out. However, for investigators and prosecutors, the financial motives provided a clear and consistent picture. Eric's murder was not a crime of passion or impulse, but rather meticulously planned by someone who saw her husband's death as the most expedient solution to her increasingly serious financial problems. The urgent need for money, combined with the possibility of inheriting millions through the prenuptial agreement and insurance policies, created what prosecutors called a perfect storm of motives. A scenario where Eric was literally worth more to Kouri dead than alive or divorced. While disputes over Eric's estate unfolded in civil courts, the criminal investigation continued behind the scenes. The meticulous work of investigators, analyzing physical evidence, digital records, and witness testimonies, culminated in a dramatic moment that shocked the Utah community. On March 8, 2023, exactly 1 year after the publication of her book about childhood grief, and just 3 days after her appearance on local television to promote it, Kouri Richins was arrested. The formal charges were serious: first-degree aggravated homicide and 3 charges of possession with intent to distribute controlled substances. The irony did not go unnoticed. The woman who had publicly presented herself as a grieving widow, trying to help her children and other children deal with the pain of loss, was now accused of being the very cause of that pain. The contrast between her carefully constructed public image and the charges she faced amplified the repercussions of the case. "Nothing made me suspicious. I didn't have any spiders since manifesting," commented the presenter who interviewed Kouri on the Good Things Utah program. "I thought she was a little unemotional, maybe lacking a bit of warmth, but everyone deals with grief differently." In May 2023, new charges were added to the case, including financial fraud. The prosecution continued to build a solid case, based not only on direct evidence related to the poisoning, but also on the extensive history of financial manipulations perpetrated by Kouri. The petition filed by Eric's sister, which sought to disqualify Kouri from receiving any part of the deceased's assets, played a crucial role in publicly revealing details of the ongoing investigations. The document exposed how Kouri had systematically stolen money from Eric to finance her real estate ventures and made more than $330,000 in charges on his credit card without his knowledge. Even after her arrest, Kouri continued to demonstrate the calculating behavior that characterized her previous actions. During a routine inspection of her cell, a letter addressed to her mother, Lisa Darden, was discovered. The document, which was later filed as evidence in court, contained explicit instructions on how her family should testify in her defense. The letter, which had the words "walk the dog" scribbled at the top of the page, apparently a code for her mother, who was taking care of the family's 16-year-old dog, instructed her brother Ronald to lie under oath. Kouri instructed that he should state that Eric bought drugs during his travels abroad, or alternatively, that Eric had confided to Ronald that he received painkillers and fentanyl from Mexico. When questioned about the incriminating content of the letter, Kouri responded with a surprising explanation. "The letter is fiction, part of a book I'm writing." This justification did not convince prosecutors, who saw in the letter more evidence of Kouri's willingness to manipulate the judicial system. Even more surprising was the discovery that, while awaiting trial, Kouri was trying to negotiate the rights for a documentary or television series about her story. According to the prosecution, her phone calls from prison revealed that she was already putting the wheels in motion for a story and selling these rights. Once again, we can see that, just as Kouri Richins did at the beginning of this case in terms of scheming, in my opinion, she is doing it now from behind a cell, commented Jennifer Coffindaffer, a former FBI agent following the case. In case she is found innocent, she wants to sell these rights and make money. A judge imposed a partial gag order on the case, limiting public comments to ensure a fair trial. However, the sensational nature of the crime, combined with the publicity generated by Kouri's children's book, kept the case under intense media attention. The most tragic victims of this story are, without doubt, the couple's 3 children. After losing their father in a violent way, they now face the reality that their mother is accused of the crime. Currently under the custody of Eric's sister, these children carry an emotional burden that few can imagine. The dark legacy of a murdered father and a mother who may spend the rest of her life in prison. The case against Kouri Richins continues, with the trial scheduled for 2025. If convicted of first-degree aggravated homicide, she could face a sentence ranging from 25 years in prison to life imprisonment. The defense, led by attorney Sky Lazaro, continues to maintain her client's innocence, arguing that prosecutors have not conclusively linked Kouri to the poisoning. Meanwhile, the children's book Are You With Me remains as a disturbing reminder of human duplicity, an object apparently conceived to console, but which, in light of the accusations, seems more like a calculated attempt to cover up a heinous crime and, possibly, profit from it. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications so you don't miss any of our analyses of real crimes. Leave in the comments what you thought of this case and what other crime you would like to see addressed here. Until the next video.